Okay, well, we're being live streamed, and we are now on. There are more people in the waiting room. Let's let them in first. Okay, well, we're being live streamed, and we are now on. There are more people in the waiting room. Let's let them in first. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you for coming tonight to our Committee on Admissions and Diversity. This is a last minute event that we put together because we are waiting any minute. Possibly the mayor may announce the future of Gifted and Talented. And as many of you know, there's been no parental engagement, as far as we know, no school engagement, and no engagement of the public and the families who have skin in the game. So we're here to talk about the situation, talk about what we can do, and we want to hear from all of you. On the committee, along with myself, my co-host Kaushik Das, he's also a co-chair of the committee, and Craig Slutskin. Craig, can you raise your hand? He's also on part of our committee, and he's our AV man. He's the guy to go to when we have any technical issues. And with that, I also want to point you to the chat. There should be, if not already, very soon there should be a sign-up link. I encourage you to sign up as soon as possible if you'd like to speak. We'd love to hear from you. Please sign up to speak. We want to hear what you have to say. We're going to limit the speaking time to 2 minutes so that everyone who wants to speak can speak. If there's more time at the end, we can have more of a group discussion. But we have a lot we want to go through, and we want to get started with the program. So thank you again, and I'm going to turn this over to Kaushik Das. Thank you.
Hello all. Yeah, as Robin said, apologies for the very condensed time frame. It's not how we would have normally done things. Due to a confluence of various events, we actually didn't get permission as a council to do Zoom till this Monday, where we had a continuation of our working business meeting. And that I also had to provide some notice for this event, 48 to 72 hours. And then on top of that, we did really want to try to get ahead of a mayoral announcement, which we thought could have been as early as today. Well, actually, we were hoping, we expected it either today or tomorrow. We're also hoping that in light of engagement, they might rethink things and postpone or actually decide to engage us. I hope that's not wishful thinking, but it may be an uphill battle. In any event, I want to, because of the rush nature of this, I don't know exactly how many speakers we'll have. I could see us having a ton. I could see us having a few. Sometimes parents get shy to speak up. I encourage you to do so, though, if you do feel comfortable. I am going to pass the mic next to the VP of our CECD2 while I figure that stuff out and provide you guys some rules of engagement. And I know Daniela Egorov is her last name. I'll let her introduce herself and pronounce her middle name and last name better than I can. And I know she's worked hard on the speech, and I'll let her take it away for now.
Thank you, Kirsch. You pronounce it right. Good night, everybody. I am the Vice President of CEC District 2. Thank you so much for taking the time to attend this meeting. I want to first thank you, my fellow council members, Robin and Kirsch, for creating this space where our families can share their opinions about the GNT program, since our elected officials, unfortunately, have failed to do so. Our president, Dan Morden, cannot be here tonight because of a previous commitment, but he asked me to express that he fully supports parents requesting meaningful engagement before any changes to GNT are announced. I'm going to start by sharing why I'm so passionate about the GNT school that my son goes to. My son went to kindergarten at our very well-regarded local district school. My husband and I work, and I was very happy that our son was going to a school just a few blocks from our home. But after a few weeks, he started complaining that kindergarten was boring. When we asked, what did you learn today? He would say, we just play baby math games and read baby books. We quickly realized that if he was already bored in kindergarten, that would mean trouble later on. And the worst for us was that he was getting the message that he didn't even have to try hard to succeed at school. For first grade, he went to GNT school. I was not happy about our long commute, but in his first week there, he said, Mom, you have no idea what I learned today. There are infinite ways to combine two numbers and make 10. He also struggled there sometimes and would tell us, school is so hard. And we would always tell him, if school is too easy, it means you're not learning anything. My son will be fine. We will ensure that he has an excellent education, regardless of what the city decides to do with GNT. But unfortunately, that's not the reality for the majority of New York City families. I have spent over a decade working to help low-income families access better schools than what is available in their neighborhood. I am fully committed to improving public education in our city, but I reject the idea that defending GNT is somehow defending a segregated system that perpetuates inequalities. The New York City district budget is now $38 billion. I'm going to repeat that, $38 billion, which represents approximately $45,000 per student. This is more than what some of the best private schools cost in our city. The problem is not GNT. The problem is the ineffective district that we have. Eliminating GNT is not going to do anything for all the New York City children who desperately need access to a better public schools. New York City families clearly want more GNT schools. 78% of the children who qualify are denied a seat at a GNT school. We literally have a lottery to decide which children would get a seat. And now we're talking about eliminating these programs. The only reasonable answer is to expand them and make them more available to more families and in more neighborhoods. Finally, I want to ask our elected officials if they really think other countries are putting artificial limits on what their children should learn. Do you really think other countries are telling their students, don't learn too fast, slow down, and go at the same pace that every other kid is going? I want America to continue leading the free world, and we won't be able to do it if we don't let our children learn as fast as they possibly can. Our schools need to meet every child exactly where they are and push them to learn as fast and as much as they possibly can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniela. That was great and very personal. I think we did one or two things out of order. Robin, could I have you do a couple more introductions before we get started, and then while I figure out this list just a little bit more.
Of course, I want to introduce also, we have Janie. She's part of our CEC District 2. We have some other important guests here tonight. I know Jennifer Greenblatt is on here, parent coordinator for District 2. Many of you may already be very well acquainted with Jennifer. And we will have a special guest at some point, so please stick around. She's a doctor and she's a specialist, and will be speaking to us about the benefits of gifted and talented education for children who need to be accelerated in such a way.
We also need to introduce Craig Riley, who, so just a little note on CEC committees. Any parent can join a committee. You don't actually have to be a CEC member. And we somewhere between drafted versus he volunteered. We kind of volunteered last week because he helped us with his AV prowess and setting up our main CEC D2 business working meeting, our calendar meeting. And we could use his expertise tonight because I really had no idea how many people would join. It could have been 50, could have been 500, and only 500 because that's our artificial cap. I think we're somewhere in the middle. Janie, I'm having trouble looking at the people who are registered to speak. Do you have a count for me?
Yes.
We really want to hear from you. So really what tonight is about is not about us. We do a lot of speaking at the CEC2 meetings. And right now, what we want to do is we want to hear how your family will be affected if Gifted and Talented no longer exists. We're anticipating remarks any day from de Blasio. We don't know what Adams will do, but we want to know how your children might be harmed, how your family might be harmed, and what your takeaway is and what you'd like to see happen. We have our thoughts as to what might be the future, but we want to know what you think.
Well, I think we should share what our thoughts are, just to kind of frame the discussion. I mean, I'll kick off. I mean, is eliminating a possibility? I think that's not what the mayor is telegraphing necessarily. Although I think whatever plan he does propose does have to be approved by the PEP. I read that somewhere. Actually, there was a comment from Tom Shepard from PEP. I'll address that later in this event. And a lot of us do believe that whatever it does come down, it will be virtual and or after school. Some of it may be, a lot of it may be enrichment as opposed to acceleration. And there may be, there are some parents are concerned it may be watered down. Other parents are happy that it will extend to a broader range of kids. I actually applaud the latter, but they're going to point to that as the big issue and the cost savings. Again, this is my opinion. He hasn't announced everything. This is my conjecture. And then there are others who are myself being one of them, that are very concerned that by doing it this way, you're just forcing kids to do more work as opposed to just more challenging work. You're forcing them to do it after school or on their own time. And that's not how I feel, at least, how Gifted's all about. Robin, did I miss some other assumptions?
Well, I think we can't, we just can't escape the fact that de Blasio wants it to change. He doesn't want it to exist how it is. And it doesn't seem like he wants more in the traditional sense that I believe there should be more gifted and talented programs in every single district, and enough programs for children who are high achievers to have a seat. There shouldn't be this fight for limited supply. And I don't feel like that we've received any indication that that is what the announcement will be. And I think that's the fear that we're all facing right now. And I do think it might be universal, but I don't think any of us, or most of us, want anything that's online after school. I think we're tired of online. I think we need in-person, not remote. I think we need targeted work in the same way that special education is targeted to the needs of children who need to go to slower pace or at a different pace. I think we need targeted education for children who are performing at a faster pace. And I'm hopeful that if we speak up and let the mayor-elect know what we want and need, that decisions won't be made hastily, and that they will take our input as promised, and that the announcement won't come prematurely from the chancellor, from the superintendent, from the DOE, without engaging us. And regardless of whether or not de Blasio shows tonight, he was invited. We invited multiple DOE admins. Regardless of whether or not they show, we will be sending this to them, so they will see what we say. And we're going to demand that they listen.
I'll pick up there. Yeah. So so I think one thing that we hopefully can agree on is that the mayor and the chancellor have both offered many opportunities, or have said many times, that we will provide opportunities for parent engagement over the summer, and then we will announce a plan. I think regardless of our positions on G&T, I think that's one place where I'd like to find unity in all of us here tonight. That certainly did not happen. The summer has come and gone. I haven't gotten any engagement from the mayor or the chancellor. I don't think any of the schools that my daughter is attending or has attended, have received that.
Nor principals. Principals have not been contacted.
I know this CC nor any other have been, even though we're specifically formed to advise the chancellor and the appointees on the PEP. I think we should stand united in that. I don't know if he. I was going to use the word political impotence, and I'm going to stick with that. I think he couldn't. The mayor couldn't control how his appointees on PEP voted on his plan, and I think that carries over in his lack of willingness to engage parents. And I'll end there, and I'll start with our first speaker.
I just want to mention too, Kush. Philip Colucci asked, "What are the arguments against gifted and talented education?" in the chat, and that's a very good question. Because I think there's some confusion there. I think that our current administration has done a very good job of painting gifted and talented as an evil, bad thing, when it's really the fault of our city and our past administrators of not allowing there or not maintaining or increasing gifted and talented programs to allow all neighborhoods to have district schools, to have district gifted and talented programs. So the word segregated schools has been thrown around so loosely, and it shouldn't be that way. Every child, regardless of color, has the opportunity to be in a gifted and talented program, and there should be children of all colors in these programs. And if they were in all neighborhoods, I strongly believe that would be the case. But the way it stands, there's a fight against the schools and against gifted and talented education. We want to lower the bar instead of raising the bar for all. So with that, I'd like to go to the next speaker, the first speaker.
Janie, would you?
Is this a speaker on the list, or you have somebody else to introduce? Okay, hold on. Here's
No. Well, we could move on to someone else if you're not ready.
I think we're ready with your list now, yes.
Okay, so these are the first three speakers that, based on when they submitted signups.
Hunter, I'm going to count on Craig and others to help me find.
Okay, Hunter, I just unmuted you. You should be able to speak.
Hello, my name is Hunter Dare. I am the co-chair of Place NYC's, excuse me, let me fix my camera. I am co-chair of Place NYC's Gifted and Talented Working Group. It is a group that does both research into best practices in gifted and talented and advocacy. About 10 days ago, we launched a petition to demand that the mayor and the DOE provide engagement for families. In that time, over 1,200 people have signed the petition demanding parent engagement. Some of them are here today. For those who can't be here tonight, I am going to do my best to speak for them. Place believes that there are gifted and talented children of every race and ethnicity. There are those who are fully able-bodied, and there are those with disabilities as well, which are called twice exceptional students. And those, all of these students can be served and have the right to be served. There are things that can make the existing gifted and talented programs accessible to a broad range of students and a far more equitable group of students. The first is universal screening. Every child whose parents don't opt them out should be screened for gifted and talented. That will add a dramatic number. We have about 1.7% in New York State. In other states, it's about 7% of the kids identified as gifted and talented. We need a major expansion of G&T services. Those are not only standalone classrooms like the citywide and district programs, but there needs to be a gifted and talented program in every single school or in a majority of schools. And there needs to be gifted and talented services available within a yellow bus ride of every single student in NYC. So no family ever has to say, I'm going to choose not to send my kid and not get these services because I can't afford the extra transportation cost, or I can't afford, 2 hours in the morning to get my kid there and another 2 hours in the afternoon to go pick my kid up because the city doesn't provide transportation. The next thing we need to do is we need to screen both using national norms and local norms. Local norms are where we take a single zip code or even a single school, and we have a standard for that zip code or school. And this would do a great deal to identify kids who face exogenous challenges, such as poverty and homelessness, that are under-identified right now at this point. And the next thing we need to do is provide a continuum of services, which, as I said, needs to range from the standalone classes, which certainly aren't optimal for a number of students, but they are also a wide variety of smaller or different layers of gifted services that can be provided to students. And those could be delivered through a majority of all schools in NYC. We used to have every school had a gifted and talented program. And when we had that, schools like Brooklyn and Tech had a huge number. I don't know if it was majority, but it was
Start concluding your thought. Thank you.
close to a majority of Black and Hispanic kids were the students at Brooklyn Tech. We're nowhere near that now. And these kinds of changes could make that happen again. Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead.
We should have signed up on set a few ground rules on time. My apologies for that. Sorry, still having some technical difficulties. This is the first time doing this. How many speakers have signed up to speak? Do you have a rough idea?
It's about 34, 35 so far, roughly.
Okay, we can be a little relaxed in time. So just to set some ground rules, people should try to limit their speeches to 2 minutes. We can be flexible on that since there's not as many speakers to speak as could be. Well, I said that wrong, but it's not hundreds, let's say. So everyone should get a chance to speak. But if they could really when we say give pronounced time, if they really could wrap up their last thought, that'd be great. We would like to give everybody a chance to speak. I would also point out that there are four G&T schools who specifically reached out to us to ask to speak today. And usually PTA or SLT, and I've decided to give them access to do that. And they're also aware of the 2 minute rough time limit, though they have vetted some of these speeches with people inside their school. So we will grant a little leeway since they will be speaking on behalf of their whole school. But I would like to move on to the next speaker, who is Faiza.
Okay.
Asia, are you ready? I'm gonna unmute you.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Kaushik, and thank you everyone else who's heading CECD2. I'm a District 2 parent. My name is Faiza Mauji. My kids go to Lower Lab, and I am an involved parent. I'm the co-VP for External Affairs on the PTA Executive Board. And I've watched over the past year or so as confusion has reigned over the future of G&T education. What has remained unanswered is why G&T is being used as a scapegoat for the pitiful state of so many of our public schools. I was on the CEC meeting in January when the PEP refused to extend the G&T contract, and the rhetoric I heard was shocking, both because it was uninformed and because it was divisive. And I think that people need to be more aware of the fact of what G&T actually is, of the opportunities it provides. It's a path to the middle class for a lot of struggling families in the city. And I think parents deserve a say. I want to say, this is an opportunity for us all to have a say. I want to say in how the program is reimagined going forward, whether it's enrichment or whatever the mayor comes up with. And I want my kids to have the opportunity to go to a much more diverse school. I was listening to the recommendations that Hunter was making that are, I believe, stated on the Place website. And I would encourage everyone who is confused about G&T and about what G&T stakeholders like myself, parents, leadership, stakeholders, SLTs, what do we want? I'll tell you what we want. We want expanded access to the program. We want expanded testing. We want people who are not aware or not fully informed about G&T to become fully informed about G&T. Before you go and I have to say this, trash something, be aware of what it is that you are denigrating. It's a fantastic program. My kids, I struggle to say my kids are gifted. I think my kids are smart. They've had advantages. I want every kid to have those advantages. I want every kid to be in the G&T program if they can handle it, if they can be in it. I want expanded testing. I want to see expanded access. I want people to be educated about what the program is. And I want them to see a better future for their kids. We need to improve education in NYC, period. I was listening to Daniela's comments, and if this country is to remain competitive, if New York, with its astronomical spend per student, is to remain competitive and stop people going to New Jersey by the thousands, then we need to improve standards for all NYC public school students, and we need to improve access to these programs.
Start wrapping up. Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
The next speaker is, I apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce anybody's name, is Sumitra. I'm gonna unmute you.
Yes, thank you. No
Go ahead.
problem. Hi, my name is Sumitra. I'm also a parent at the lower lab. And yeah, I agree with what Hunter and Faisal was saying in the past before this. See, we all agree that the GNT program is really needed and is for our kids. And what all we want is expansion of that program. The more people can get into it, it becomes more equitable and it becomes more diverse. You know, there are only 5 or 6 schools here, and then the rest of the 23 other schools. We just need to have more schools focused on the GNT program. Now, America, right now, there are about 2 million jobs that are open for, in science and technology, and we don't have the people right there. So it's really important to impart the education at the young age for these kids. So I would really like to be a part of this discussion. If there is a reimagination of this program, if something needs to be changed, I would like the mayor to involve the people who are the most affected by these changes. Not having a say in that is really not fair to us as parents. And I think we should be given a chance to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. The next speaker is going to be JG, and then we'll go to Brian, Johannes, and Lisa. So the next is Jayji. And I'm gonna unmute you now.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allocating this good time for us. Thank you for taking the lead organizing this. We have a kid in Anderson. We go to District 3, but we live in District 2, so we appreciate the opportunity to participate in the meeting. So I guess my first reaction is I just don't know any indication of what quote unquote changes that might be coming from. Without those, without some kind of direction or kind of understanding, it feels like we are aiming at a moving target or kind of target that is really not so clear. What I really agree with is that the approach that not engaging all the parents are definitely not the right approach, especially after this the hectic past 2 years, and we have seen some changes has already been implemented. So we want to be sure that our voice be heard. Generally speaking, the GNT program, we just feel like is if they eliminate the program, let's say the worst case, just eliminate the whole program, that actually will probably go to the other direction of giving the equal opportunity to a lot of families that is middle income, lower income families. Because whoever has the resource, they will probably find a way to do tutoring or participate into some, go to some private institutions or all different channels to get those opportunity to improve the academic performance of the kids. But then essentially you terminate it, you close the door for a public value, public access, the path for a lot of moderate or lower income families. I think that's essentially almost the complete opposite of the what they're trying to serve or quote unquote make it fair. So I just got the notice yesterday. I have some quick initial thoughts here. I just don't want to take up too much time, but this just a quick feedback on this. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it back to Kush. Do you want to introduce our next person?
No, I don't need to, but
okay.
I will say we are going to take a brief intermission at around 8:20. Don't worry, plenty of time for more parents speaking. But I'll let well, since you have my attention, the next person is Johan. Again,
sorry, the next was Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apologies.
Sorry.
Sorry, folks. This is all thrown together. Apologies. Sorry. I'd like to introduce Brian Carr. As I mentioned before, several GNT schools did ask to specifically speak on behalf of their school. Brian Carr is the co-president of Anderson PTA, unless I botched that in my notes somehow, but I think that's correct.
That's correct.
And though Anderson is technically a District 3 school, I estimate there's about 100 families that do go to this school, but I'll let Brian confirm that. Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Kush. Yes, as Kush said, my name is Brian Carr. I'm one of the co-presidents of the Anderson PTA, which is located in District 3. I think we do have about 100 District 2 families that go to our school. And I really want to first thank the CEC of District 2 and this committee for letting us speak. This is a really important forum for us. It's obviously something that's very important to the families in our school, those in District 2 and from all over the city. And we really appreciate the time. I just want to say that, you know, from the Anderson PTA's point of view, we have taken many efforts to try to reach out to the mayor, to the chancellor, to anyone who will listen to us, to try to have a seat at the table and the ability to have a conversation about what the future of accelerated or gifted and talented programs are going to look like in the city going forward. And we have been met with nothing but blank. We have not heard anything back. We're never invited to any meetings. We never get an opportunity to speak. And it has been an incredibly frustrating experience, obviously, and has put us in a position of trying everything we can to reach out to people. Having said that, you know, we certainly understand that there are a lot of inequities in the city's education system, but the cause of those inequities is not these programs that are so successful and that have done so well for so many students. We have actually, with our administration, worked to implement a diversity plan for our school and have seen some small success with that, but it's impossible to have any real success with any program without assistance, guidance, and some understanding of what the system is going to look like in the future. There's too much uncertainty and there's too little information. And so we join in a lot of what has already been said in saying that we believe that universal testing is important. We believe that expansion of programs into communities throughout the city is very important. We believe that increasing access for all families to G&T programs is important. We believe very strongly in providing services to twice exceptional students. We have IEPs, you know, that support a lot of different students with different issues or that need additional help, and gifted advanced students that need accelerated curriculum are in many cases students that need special attention. They have special needs, and these programs are there to help and assist them, and they need to be expanded throughout the city. And, you know, there's no question that accelerated programs are one of the only real big, great success stories in the New York City public education system. And to do anything to hurt or limit those programs is going to do nothing but hurt the students of this city, both in all communities, including these underserved communities. So our community are eager to be involved in a discussion about how to expand programs and assist in getting gifted and accelerated programs into all of the communities throughout the city. And we look forward to, we hope, an opportunity to have a seat at that table and have those discussions. So thank you all again for your time and this opportunity to speak. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. The next speaker is Johannes Holman.
Hi, thank you. My name is Johannes Holman. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm the parent of two District 2 children. I also serve on the PTA board as co-VP of External Affairs for the Lower Lab School. There's a couple things I'd like to say. First, achieving equity and having robust accelerated education programs in the school system don't have to be outcomes or concepts that are at odds with each other. In fact, I think expanding the G&T program, or expanding an accelerated education program is a key part of the solution on both fronts. I know I'm echoing some of the comments said earlier, but I really do believe that the reimagined G&T should be expanded. There should be seats for 10 to 15% of the students. It should be expanded to every neighborhood, like other people said. There's just simply not enough seats. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you look at the numbers, previously about 35,000 families would have their kids take the test every year. This was for less than 3,000 seats. The untold story about in that was that more than half every year, 20,000 were not kindergartners. These were children entering grades 1 to 3, and 5,000 of these kids would qualify for a seat. And in reality, there was only a handful of seats. And I wanted to say this because, in a personal note, my daughter qualified for GNT as a 3rd grader, and I'll always be grateful that she got this opportunity. It came at a very difficult time for our family, and it really made a difference for her. So I think that every child should have this same opportunity, and the avenue to expand this is the avenue to the solution for this is to expand rigorous education and expand the GNT program. So I think the DOE should not eliminate GNT, but like I said, expand. There should be seats for 10 to 15% of the students. They should guarantee a seat for everybody who qualifies. As other people have said, mandate universal assessment of all students. It should be geographically accessible, like other people have said, and have multiple on-ramps. So it's not just in kindergarten, but it's through 4th grade. So there's, like I said, room for every student. So that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Marx. Hi, Lisa. And I just unmuted you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. And thank you to Hunter and Faiza and Johannes who just spoke, because I agree with everything that you guys have been saying. And everyone here seems to agree that every district across the city should have more local GNT programs that reach more students across the city. And so if and when the mayor ever does watch this video and decides to engage with parents, which we all so desperately seem to want, my main question to the mayor is, why is there this artificial shortage of GNT seats right now? Because the DOE and the city are in full control of how many GNT seats there are out there, like Johannes pointed out. And every year, thousands more apply and are admitted with scores than there are seats for. So we have Anderson, we have Nest, we have Lower Lab, but I am not clear on why we can't emulate these schools in all boroughs, in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, in Staten Island, in Queens. We should not have students traveling across the city for 2 hours each way to go to accelerated learning programs that are only located in Manhattan. If the mayor wants to bring GNT to more students across the city, we should end this artificial shortage of seats. We should make more programs in every borough that are in the model of Nest, Anderson, Lower Lab, TAG, which is true accelerated learning, because there is a demand for it. There are students in every borough, in every nationality, who are accelerated learners, who are not getting their educational needs met at their local zone school. And there's really been no clear reason why we can't just fix this artificial gap in the supply. I've never heard any reason why we are limiting the numbers of seats, and to have a reimagining of GNT cannot just be an enrichment model, because that's not going to address the needs of students like my daughter, who's in 1st grade and reading chapter books, while her peers in the class are learning snap words like the word the and his and my. My daughter is left at this point without a teacher or a principal that can address her needs, because right now they're understandably, their focus is on closing the learning gap that was caused by the pandemic. But
if you could start concluding your remarks, please.
Out there, sorry, I'll wrap up. There
Thank
are accelerated learners out there that truly have a need for an accelerated learning, and that's not going to be met. Their learnings are not going to be met by an enrichment model. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
I'd like to just quickly respond to one quick comment that Lisa made. I think that it's something we should all remember and focus on tonight. For those children who don't fit in to the classroom and what is being taught, what harm? I really want to think of this. What harm is being done to these children who feel left out, who don't feel stimulated, who may act out, who are not getting the educational needs that they should be getting and that they deserve? And what harm will that cause? And what will be the future if parents are forced to take that into their own hands? And what will our choices be? What will we do next if we don't have an educational system that can properly educate our children? So let's go to the next speaker. I just wanted to point that out and really keep that in the back of our minds here.
Okay. Trying to unmute Hans. Hans, are you ready?
Hello. Thanks to Robin and Kaushik for organizing this meeting. My name is Hans Storer. My kids were fortunate to participate in G&T programs, and I want every child to have the same opportunities. I'm a founding member of Place NYC, and I'm a parent in District 2 at Lab Middle School. My entire family have been appalled that the mayor and chancellor have tried to eliminate G&T programs and accelerated education. First, let's start off with a couple self-evident truths. New York City is a city of strivers and achievers. And so the New York City DOE public schools, which are funded and owned by the citizenry, absolutely must provide education commensurate with a citizenry of strivers and achievers. Second, here are some thoughts on G&T programs. One, there must be an open public process regarding any changes to the public school G&T programs and accelerated education, with full unrestricted opportunities for parents and citizens to participate, submit comment and testimony. Two, accelerated education, whether under the name of G&T programs or any other name, should be available to any and all students and families who desire it and who are academically prepared to participate. Three, accelerated education, defined as a program of study that is academically more accelerated, challenging, and demanding than regular grade level education, should be available in each and every public school operated by New York City DOE. Four, at a minimum, multiple options and school choice for accelerated education must be available both district-wide in each and every New York City DOE school district, borough-wide, and also citywide. Finally, number five, admissions metrics and admissions criteria to programs of accelerated education must be open, objective, easily measurable, blind to any social characteristics, and predictive of aptitude and success for the planned academic course of study. Thanks very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Romana Ramzen. I'm trying to unmute you. Should be good now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Several things. I want to just touch upon the remarks that Lisa Marx made about teachers looking to close the gap. The gap didn't just exist with COVID. It's been there for a while. The pandemic has not caused the gap. I have witnessed 4th and 5th grade students who are reading at the kindergarten level. And I have seen teachers overwhelmed with classes of 32 students in 1st grade through 5th grade, with often a third of their class performing at below grade level. These teachers are forced to work with these students, and children performing at or above grade level are left to their own devices because the attitude is they will make some growth on their own. Worse yet, these students performing at or above grade level get paired with struggling students. The idea being that students learn better from one another. What often happens is that students who are made tutors, and I'm putting that quotation marks, get frustrated with these struggling students and disengage altogether. Why? Because they're being forced into a job that is not theirs. They are not trained to tutor someone else. These students deserve to be met where they are and be educated by a trained professional. It's the city's job to educate all students. And this is why accelerated programs need to be a safe and supportive space to learn. And the city needs to continue offering them. I live in District 27, and the thought of sending my child to my local school kept me up nights. And I'm sure you can hear the turmoil in my voice. And I have one child. I don't have any additional children. And thankfully, he made it into one of the citywide schools. And I remember the morning I opened the offer, I cried because my child was one who started kindergarten reading already at a first grade level. And there was no viable options near my home for a child who thirsted for knowledge, or even tutoring programs. The limitations in this district are astonishing.
If you could start wrapping up your remarks, please.
Have to schlep my child outside of my neighborhood. I'm really happy that my child made it into a citywide school, and the thought that they want to take away this testing is disheartening. It was a beacon of light for our family, and I feel very saddened that the mayor is going to extinguish this light for others.
Thank you. The next speaker is Crystal Gouzales. I apologize if I've messed that up.
Hi, thank you. So I'm a parent of a kindergartner at Lower Lab. This is our first year in the program. And I just want to echo what other parents have said. And in general, the general education crisis is not an excuse to cut the GNT program. The gifted and talented students, as pointed out, only account for 1.6 of the 1 million New York City student population. So how is that 1.6 of the student population to blame for the state of the public schools? The focus should be on fixing the schools, not performing, instead of attacking and dismantling the schools that are really flourishing. I keep hearing from other people like, why should a small group of students experience this enrichment while others are suffering? But until general education programs are fully funded and improved, the gifted and talented programs are necessary. If there is more demand for GNT seats than supply, then they expand the GNT programs. And I think most of us would agree that accelerated education should not be in the exclusive realm of expensive private school education. If the issue is equity, then more schools should have the GNT classrooms in it, not less. Second, I just want to point out that there is nothing wrong with grouping children by academic ability. But what seems to be happening in the DOE is that they're equating this achievement gap with segregation when it's not. And further to that point, the elimination of the programs directly impacts students that are zoned for underperforming schools who do have high test scores. And so according to the city's most recent measure, Asian Americans have the highest number of poverty among all ethnic groups, yet Asian students outperform on testing and evaluations. The GNT is not inherently racist. The GNT programs have involved parents, and the mayor is confusing hard work by calling it racism and privilege. And last and most importantly, why we are all here is that parents of high performers also have the right to engage and ask questions around this reimagined program. What's in it for my child? Gifted and talented education only ensures that students with higher academic ability receive the attention and material they need to live up to their full academic potential. Thank you.
Thank you. It is now 8:20. Kush, do you want to do the?
We're gonna take a quick intermission. We get complaints that people don't get a chance to feed kids, check in on homework, go to the bathroom. We're gonna pause for 2 minutes. Then I'm gonna introduce a guest speaker, and then we're basically gonna return to parent speaking. If that's okay with everybody else, turn off your screens, attend to your kids. Do what you need to do. We'll be right back. Okay, everyone back. Hope you enjoyed that. If you're still not back yet, you got a little bit of time while I introduce the next person.
Are we going to move to our guest at this point, Kush?
Yes, we are indeed.
I'd love to introduce her.
Or shall I?
We're very excited about introducing Dr. Lisa Brown. She's one of the foremost experts in the U.S. on gifted education. She's the current co-president of Gifted New York State and former head of the gifted education program at Hunter College, which both educates, teachers in providing gifted services and runs the Hunter Elementary and high schools. So Dr. Lisa Brown, I'm going to unmute you. And you should be able to there. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thanks for the opportunity to share some thoughts. So I've prepared some remarks, and I just want to share some of the research and give you some things to think about. Having been a parent of 3 gifted students myself, most agree that America must increase the racial and social economic diversity of its selective high schools and colleges. Yet debate rages over how best to achieve that critical goal. In K-12 education, we are squandering the talents of too many low-income high achievers, and the impulse has often been to relax standards or even give up notions of academic excellence or giftedness in the name of equity and inclusion. While this approach appeals to some, it risks lowering the ceiling, holding back many young people who are ready to zoom ahead, and in the long run, diminishing the country's competitiveness. A surer approach is to increase the supply of top-notch education offerings in order to help more high potential kids from disadvantaged backgrounds compete successfully with others of the nation's best and brightest. That's a tall order, and one that the US has long struggled to achieve. Studies by Johns Hopkins and others have documented stark excellence gaps between high and low income pupils. They found that while the focus on the most struggling learners has resulted in progress being made on closing the minimum competency achievement gaps, schools have not addressed gaps between groups of students at advanced levels of functioning, commonly referred to as the excellence gap. Reducing and eliminating excellence gaps is an issue of equity and social justice, community development, economic advancement, and national security. Here in New York, there is a state definition of giftedness. And according to the state's definition, which is Article 4452, gifted and talented students require, not should, or it would be nice if, but it says require, education programs beyond the regular classroom in order to meet their cognitive and affective needs. Several longitudinal studies have found that when gifted students are grouped together and the curriculum/content and pace of instruction are differentiated, it has a statistically significant effect on both their achievement and their post-secondary plans. Providing enrichment is insufficient in and of itself. While enrichment is good for all, it is typically doled out in small doses when teachers can get around to it, and more often than not, there's a cost to implementing a robust enrichment model with fidelity. Acceleration, on the other hand, costs nothing and is supported by over 70 years of research. Whether it's providing above grade level content pitched to the students' abilities or compressing learned content, teaching it in shorter amounts of time, or providing pre-assessments for students to demonstrate mastery and then move on in the curriculum, it works. It matches gifted students' ability to process information quickly, think abstractly, and demonstrate learning in sophisticated ways. Accelerate first, then enrich. According to a report about gifted students from teachers, more than 70% of the respondents, teachers surveyed, noted that their brightest students were not challenged or given a chance to thrive in the general education classrooms, even when enrichment was employed. One teacher was quoted as saying, "Gifted students need specialized gifted programming in many cases because the general ed program is not ready to meet their academic or social emotional needs due to the lack of training and the pressure we face to raise the performance of struggling students. The importance of teacher training is paramount." In conclusion, as Chester Finn, who's the former US Assistant Secretary of Education and the president of the Thomas B. Fordham Institute noted, quote, "The United States wastes an enormous amount of time, an enormous amount of its human capital by failing to cultivate the innate talents of many of its young people, particularly high ability girls and boys from disadvantaged and minority backgrounds. That failure exacts a great cost from the nation's economy, widens painful gaps in income, frustrates efforts to spur upward mobility, contributes to civic decay and political division, and worsens the inequities that plague so many elements of our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. You said it better than I think. Many of us have said similar things, but I think you said it far better.
And I'm happy to put a link to my full document. I didn't read all of it because of the time restraint, but I'm happy to put a link to it in the chat.
Please do. That would be helpful for anyone who wants to read more. And
yeah, I've got a fuller, more robust document, but I just pulled out the critical pieces to kind of summarize. Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Next, I have one quick question. Chen, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you want to speak or you?
Yeah, I'll speak. I mean, I'm not going to add too much because I want to give as much time to the families to speak. I think it's really all about quality education to support the needs of all students. As students who have the interest and ability are in every neighborhood. They come in from every background. They're not being supported. There's a fallacy that's been spread by anti-education extremists that say that academic excellence and accelerated students who can handle accelerated work are white and privileged, and and when it comes to Asians, they're trying to make an excuse that Asians are white adjacent. But what they're missing is, and their biggest bit of racism is that they're assuming, it's not spoken, but it's very loud, that they're assuming that Black and brown students don't have the capacity, that they cannot have excellence and competency, high competency. When, I'll go back to my old story, when Brooklyn Tech for 20 plus years straight was majority Black and Hispanic because there are programs such as G&T, special progress in every school. And they had tracking, they had ability grouping. It's made it to turn into a dirty word. But that provided the pathway for so many students of color, of low income, from any kind of background, difficult backgrounds and families, to succeed in life. And that happened for 20 plus years, and people forget that. But it was the same people who are against achievement, who have this kind of, the bigotry of low expectations that started closing down these programs. And this is now the ethos at DOE, the ethos that's driving de Blasio to kill excellence. And that's why we want assessment at every, for all kids, right? So to identify them and have enough seats and enough opportunities for every student of every income level, of every background. So that's my take, and it's really a battle for excellence, to give the chance for excellence for all our kids, not rich privilege. In fact, when you take it away, the rich privileged students succeed over the low income and disadvantaged kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Chen. Next, we have one other, as I mentioned, we have several schools here today, or rather people representing their schools. Next up will be Maggie Wang. She's, if I'm not mistaken, the PTA co-president of Lower Lab, and I'll let her, Craig, you got her unmuted.
Thank you, Kush. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very inspired by all the speakers speaking ahead of me. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for providing the research and stats supporting GNT, and thank you for Chen's comments on excellency for all. I can't agree with you all more. Today, as Kush mentioned, I'm speaking as co-president of PTA at Lower Lab. We've had a lot of Lower Lab parents speak before me already. You can see, and I'm so proud of the parent engagement at Lower Lab, and this is a great school, and it's not just great because it's GNT, but I think the GNT school polls parents who are very, very involved and invested in kids' education. And then here you see tonight, as we all gather here, we all know education is so important, and we're willing to spend time and efforts in every possible way to help every child to succeed. So that said, wouldn't all of us, including the mayors and the chancellor, be proud if we can give all the children in New York City the education they need and meet their needs wherever they are? We will be very proud. And that's why I'm here today to strongly advocate that the mayor and the DOE expand the GNT program and improve access for all New York City students. We ask the DOE to keep cities' high achieving and academically successful GNT programs. And we demand that the families, the SLTs, school leaders, and other stakeholders' input is included in the reimagination of the GNT program. We share the mayor's and other stakeholders' concerns that lack of diversity in the GNT school system today. However, we believe that full equity in the New York City public schools and the robust accelerated education program could coexist. They're not at odds with each other, with good planning and thoughtful implementation. New York City deserves a school system that can achieve equity and have an accelerated program with a seat for every child that needs it, and not just 2% or less than 2% of the kids who can have the fortune to win the lottery to get it. For middle-class parents and families of more modest means from a broad swath of racial backgrounds, public school system, and especially the accelerated programs, are a path to a bright future for their children. And the DOE should make access to those programs for all learners a priority. There's no reason why there shouldn't be GNT programs in every district, in every borough, every neighborhood. So we asked the mayor and the chancellor to envision a future GNT program for New York City based on the following 6 criteria. 1, meaningful expansion of accelerated programs in New York City. Create a program that could potentially serve 10% or 15% of the students instead of just 2%. 2, expanding the program geographically so every student lives within reasonable proximity of accelerated classroom. Put a program in every neighborhood, please. 3, universal assessment of all pre-K students. 4, ensure the DOE proactively makes families aware of the accelerated programs. I honestly think more education, more family engagement will, by nature, help smooth out equity problem. 5, ensure accelerated seat for every child who qualifies. No lottery.
Wrapping up.
And finally, create multiple unwraps through 3rd and 4th grade to ensure children who qualify later on can enter accelerated program on their own timing. Not every child will enter kindergarten, and we know we should provide opportunities for all children. Thank you for letting me speak, and it's my dear pleasure to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rebecca Garte, I believe the last name. You're listed in there twice, so I'm allowing both to unmute. You should be able to go.
Hi, I'm here from Ella Baker, the Ella Baker School on East 67th Street. I'm representing the majority of parents at that school. I'm representing the PTA, the SLT, and the Ella Baker Family Equity Committee. None of us support gifted and talented programs. We do not want more gifted and talented programs in District 2. We are not the only school community that feels this way. I may be one of the only people speaking tonight that feels that way, but I am not by any means the only parent or representing the only school community. I'm also a professor of education and psychology. I'm a former teacher. I'm a professor of future teachers, I'm a teacher educator, and I know that high quality teaching involves differentiation, it involves individualization, it involves adapting materials to each child's needs, And I would like to push for resources to allow every school, and I'll focus in on District 2, every school in District 2 to be able to promote teachers being able to offer those kinds of high quality education to all children in their classrooms. I do agree that profoundly gifted students who make up a very, very, very small percentage of the population have special needs and need to be served. I'm aware of that research, but that is not the large majority of children who are funneled into programs. I would also note that there is no standard gifted and talented curriculum currently for the that are not the school-wide the school-wide gifted and talented. They're, you know, within individual schools. There are vast differences in quality. Some of them are not even accelerated. I know this from having been in DOE classrooms all over the city for the last 20 years. And, you know, the claims that everybody is making here are fine. They're based on your personal opinions. They are not based on any fact or any research. And my opinion and that of the school community that I represent is that gifted and talented programs do nothing to benefit really anyone unless we are talking about profoundly gifted children who have innate IQs above, you know, 135 and
You can wrap it
really
up.
have special needs. I do not, that is such a tiny percentage of the population that they could be served in the school-wide programs that currently exist.
Thank you. The next person is Vanessa Wyatt. Hi, Vanessa, and you should be able to speak now.
Thank you so much. I come to this from a different perspective than most of what I've heard. My children were not in G&T programs, and they have still managed to benefit from excellent educations in the D2 public schools. Both are graduates of the Gen Ed program at PS 11. And despite not being in G&T, both graduated reading above grade level, got high 4s on their state tests, and were accepted to top middle schools in District 2. My son graduated from Sauk last year and is now at Beacon High School. My daughter's at Clinton Middle School. I'm very disturbed by the discourse around G&T. I don't understand why we treat public education like a scarce commodity that needs to be hoarded rather than a public good that should be made accessible to all. I agree with many things that I've heard tonight. I think we all agree that there should be no one size fits all to education. Every child needs the opportunity for differentiated learning opportunities. Some kids need accelerated learning. Some kids need special support. Many students need both. And I fail to see how a model as currently set up that's predicated on a test given to 4-year-olds is the solution to this problem. Why do we treat the G&T program as it's currently designed as the only model for differentiated learning and for opportunities for acceleration? You know, my daughter was in an ICT class as a Gen Ed student in 4th and 5th grade. You know, she was more advanced than some of her classmates. She was sometimes paired with classmates and asked to help them. I think this fostered empathy in her. It fostered a willingness to and a desire to be inclusive. I don't think it inhibited her learning in any way. In middle school, she was diagnosed with ADHD, and now she has an IEP mandating ICT support. My son was in ICT classes throughout his time at Salk and is now at Beacon High School. You know, I see that model, that inclusion model, as being an incredibly beneficial model of learning, which allowed teachers to offer differentiated opportunities for students based on their specific needs and their abilities and support where needed. And so I think we start from a false premise that we have a choice between the current program or no program, or the current program, but expanding it, where, you know, I've seen no evidence, you know, no one is saying that there is a racist intent behind the G&T program. But the problem is that the outcomes, as the way it's currently working, seems to only kind of benefit a certain population in our schools. And when more G&T programs are added, it's those same populations that benefit. You know, the whole way that this forum was set up tonight invited us to talk about how we would be harmed if G&T was eliminated or changed. And I think that's the wrong question. You know, I think the question should be, how can we as families and as the community that that sends our children to these schools work together to come up with a model that works for all kids. You know, we can't keep saying, oh, we agree every student needs opportunity. Don't change what our students have, just make it better for everyone else. We have to make it something that works for everyone. And I think G&T is not the only model. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ann Sullivan. I am trying to unmute you now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Ann Sullivan. I have two sons. I live in District 2. My younger son, Connor, attends Anderson. My older son attends School of the Blessed Sacrament because he got into the G&T program at PS 111, which is a non-accessible school building. So when we are talking about opening up school programs and giving everyone an equal opportunity, it is my opinion as a parent, as an educator who has taught kids for 25 years, including at MS 104 in District 2, that we are focusing on trying to break something that isn't broken. If we leave the G&T program as it is and then expand it, that's going to help more kids. But what the DOE really needs to fix is special education. The fact that one of the wealthiest islands in the world that I currently reside on does not have completely handicap accessible schools for all children is completely unacceptable. The fact that the amount of children who should be receiving special education services and they do not receive them is completely unacceptable. And that the mayor is attacking the G&T programs and isn't even defining them correctly. He needs to define his terms. Enrichment is not gifted. And as Rebecca stated, truly gifted children, yes, are a small percentage, but the accelerated programs like Anderson are a totally different thing. They are accelerated. They are just called gifted and talented. If we need to rebrand programs, fine. They should be expanded. But what the mayor should really be focusing on is working on helping our most vulnerable children, our special needs children who are ignored completely. Thank you.
Wrapping up. Thank you. The next person is Ryan Willem. You should be able to speak now.
Yes, hi. Thank you, everybody. Good evening. My name is Ryan Willem, and I am an elected parent representative of the Nest Plus M school leadership team. My son is a sixth grader and he's attended Nest Plus M since he was a kindergartner. As a member of the Nest Plus M community, my family and so many others have found a school that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nest is a community that stands for and believes in intellectualism, inclusivity, collaboration, and exploration. I'm here tonight because I want to understand how a decision that can affect so many New Yorkers is being made in such a vacuum. There isn't a cap on student brilliance, and it is important that we consider expansion. Having listened to so many ideas tonight, it is clear that there is a great deal of intellectualism right here available for the mayor to collaborate with. If the mayor or the mayor-elect cares about future generations, then it is important that this intellectualism is utilized and not ignored. Thank you.
If I can chime in, apologies, Ryan, I was supposed to introduce you. Yes, Ryan was speaking on behalf of Nest. Again, not necessarily a District 2 school, but a school that asked permission to speak tonight. It is a school that serves a large community. It is a citywide G&T that does serve a large community of District 2 parents and students. Just thought I'd add that. And Craig, back to you.
Okay. Robin, do you want to introduce Motoko as the PS33 rep?
Yes, I would love to introduce Motoko Shiboji. She is very active at PS33 Chelsea Prep, where my children go. I have two children there and one who graduated from Chelsea Prep and now is at Lab Middle. And Motoko has been extremely helpful on so many fronts and very active in our community. And I'd love for her to share some of her own experiences and to speak for some of our school. And she will speak on their behalf. Thank you, Motoko, so much.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. So I'm a mother of two kids at PS33 Chelsea Prep, one in 5th grade and the little one who just started kindergarten. And I'm on the advocacy and community engagement committee of the PTA. As you can tell, I'm not very good at public speaking. I'm not trained, but because I was so shocked to hear how some people connected GNT with racism and segregation, and our voices were not heard last year, I just wanted to speak up. So my daughter, my fifth grader, is experienced at PS33. GNT has been really great. I really, it's been amazing, and I don't agree with segregation in the GNT program. So in the school, there are 2 GNT classes and 2 local gen ed classes every grade. And we have many school-wide events like Halloween parties and all these parties, and kids take classes together like PE. They have art shows together, poem, reading parties, and the school is really diverse, and we help each other, and the community really help each other, I think. And for our little one who just started kindergarten, we thought about sending her to a zone school because, they don't have to take the bus. It might be easier. It's a really, really, really good zone school. And it's rated on great schools on 10. But, PS33 definitely is a lot more diverse, and we decided to send her to PS33. I also want to emphasize that the COVID really proved that the virtual learning environment does not work for elementary school kids. And if GNT becomes just some after school thing, like a virtual after school thing, then some kids really just starts to get bored during the day school. And then, they would just learn not to participate in the class or not to participate in the school activity and all that. And lastly, as everyone knows, GNT is very popular. For example, my daughter, my kindergartner daughter, was on the wait list for 1,425 for Anderson kindergarten this year. Many people have already left the New York City public school system because of this uncertainty. And I just really don't want to see more people leaving the city that I love, and I want people to stay here. GNT is really working and benefiting our city, I think. And before the mayor tries to dismantle what's working, let's really please improve all the schools that lack the resources and expand this excellence to all areas of New York City. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is going to be, am I on mute? Oh, okay. The next speaker is Nikolai Halov. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Should be okay now.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thanks to the CEC for organizing this forum. I think it is very timely. It's unfortunate that it is not coming from the mayor and the DOE, but it's coming from the parents. It's not clear to what extent these suggestions are going to be heard, but I really appreciate the opportunity to talk. I'm a parent of 2 kids. Both of them go to a lower lab. And I just wanted to give a couple of facts about GNT program, probably very well familiar to you. But it seems like a lot of people are not familiar with the GNT programs in general. I want to talk about the costs of not well thought out changes, and then a couple of suggestions. So the first fact is that the GNT program is a very successful program. Kids read well above grade level. They are great at math. Families really love the program. The second fact is that the GNT students receive exactly the same funding as any other public school student. And the third one is that GNT students represent only about 1% of all public school students. So it is really incorrect for some people to represent this as a question of either equity or excellence. I think we can have both. It is not the case that some additional special resources are funneled into GNT programs, and it is not clear how killing a successful program is going to help the majority of public schools which have some serious problems. The costs of not well thought out changes are significant. families are leaving, teachers are leaving. I have several, cases in our own school. And, the most important cost is that children are squandering their best learning years. I mean, the time cannot be rolled back. Any change that sacrifices a couple of years cannot be rolled back. And all these children are gonna, suffer from that throughout their lives. And a couple of suggestions, many people recommended probably similar things much more eloquently. But in my opinion, GNT should be expanded. It's a very successful program without any additional resources. Universal testing for all students is going to help tremendously with equity and enrichment.
You start wrapping up, please.
Yes. And enrichment or after school type program or remote program is not the same, is not the answer. What is needed is accelerated in-person education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Laura Tagliareni. Sorry if I botched that up. You should be able to unmute now. Trying to see. It's not letting me unmute you. Okay. For some reason, it's not unmuting you, so I'm going to come back to you in a second, and I'm going to go to Vikas. I think you might have. I'm assuming it's Vikas Kalra, but I'm assuming it's Mite Kalra. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, and you should go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yeah, this is Vikas Kalra, and my wife is Mite Kalra.
Okay.
We have two kids. One is in GNT at Nest. She's in second grade, and the other one is 2 years old. She's too young to be in school. And as far as the just to give like 10 seconds of background, as far as the one down in Nest, the reason we sent her there is that she was in the public school and she couldn't quite fit in terms of her ability for accelerated learning. And so far the GNT program has been a good home for her. With that said, yeah, I understand the comments that some have made about the school systems need to serve all, and I completely agree. And GNT is only serving a tiny fraction of a special population. We need to address a larger population, and I agree with that. So I didn't want to belabor points too much because many good points were already made. I just wanted to say these comments are more for the mayor-elect. I mean, as far as the mayor is concerned, I don't think he really cares. He hasn't really presented any compelling, cogent arguments about why the solution, why GNT should go away. He's been more like actively silent and really has been playing the system to not engage. So, but this is for the mayor-elect. And what I just don't understand is that, America has been built on the premise of providing paths to excellence and removing barriers. And that's why people come to this country. And so why would you make a decision to destroy the paths to excellence? Why not broaden the paths, enlarge the paths, make them more accessible? But are we dead set on destroying? And also, we live in a democracy. Why can't we engage in a conversation with our leaders to have a fair conversation about the decision? And we need to take the whole community in mind. I completely agree, but this seems to have ulterior motives in the way it's run, and we're destroying paths instead of exploring how to broaden paths and make things better. Nothing's perfect. Things can get better, but just shutting things down it just doesn't make sense to me. And ultimately it'll degrade the fabric of the country. And one can say we don't need these programs; they only serve a small section of the populace. But if you take this logic to its further extent, what do we?
Wrapping up.
Yep, sure. Why do we even need AP programs in high school? What's the purpose of those? They provide excellent paths for excellence for those students that want to go that route. There's many other things we could talk about. Why not just remove all the paths to excellence? It just doesn't make any logical sense.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm going to try Laura again. It's not letting me unmute you. I don't know why. Okay.
Craig, I'm going to cut in a little bit because I said I'd make this statement while you see if you can get Laura on. First of all, I wanted to, sorry to interrupt, but I think this has been going well. I'm glad to hear from so many different voices. I'm also thankful. I see an active disagreement in the chat, but I feel fairly animated, but polite, or at least as polite as it can be on such a hot topic. So I do thank you for engaging properly. Let's just keep functions like that in the future. I also said I would dig out the one response I did get from a school member of sorts. Actually, respect him. I'm disappointed that there wasn't more DOE employees that didn't respond. Tom Shepard is the elected CEC member to the PEP, and these were his statements in response to the press release that I released. Good morning. I agree with CEC2's position that there needs to be active engagement with parents before any announcements for the future of the Gifted and Talented program is proposed. While I may or may not agree with CEC2's position on the future of the program itself, it is imperative that collaboration and engagement happen in order to find a solution that the majority of rights holders can support. It is also my position that, consistent with State Education Law 2590G, any Gifted and Talented policy must be presented to the Panel for Education Policy for approval, since it is a policy that is directly related to educational achievement and academic performance. I don't have an opinion on the last point, but I assume he's researched it more than I, but I assume others may or may not have different opinion with that. We did discuss that this district, CEC2, actually hasn't taken an official position on GNT, other than the fact that there should have been engagement and the fact that that is something we agree on. And we don't often on many other points. That being said, I did admit that there are strong views on behalf of this district, CEC2, and I think you've heard them from people like myself and others, but I am happy to pass the baton back to parents to hear more. I just didn't want to provide that as a framework of some of the conversations that we were having. I also did want to add that I do want people to keep in mind that part of what the mayor is likely to propose may not be an elimination of the program. In fact, if I, as a betting man, I would say that's not the case. But as a betting man, I also do believe that we're going to see something that may be a lot of virtual, a lot of potentially after school, and a lot of enrichment versus acceleration. And potentially also a lowering of standards for those who get quote unquote enrichment and not acceleration. But again, that is my belief, but please do keep in mind that there's a range of possibilities that are being announced. But again, I think we're all united in the belief that there should have been engagement of some sort. And with that, Craig, I hope that gave you enough time to sort it out. If not, let's move on to the next speaker.
I think, Janie, are you going to try to promote Laura just to host it? I don't know why it's not letting me add her. So, oh, okay. So Laura can't speak. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to her if she can do it. The next one would be Alina Gallant. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Okay, sorry. I'm just going to sit down. Thank you so much for this opportunity to let me speak today. I have 2 kids in the Anderson School. I have a 4th grader and a kindergartner, and it's been a great experience. But I wanted to share my story. I'm an immigrant to this country. I came here when I was 10 years old, and so is my husband. My husband came here at the age of 13. And when we came here, our parents had 0 money. Literally, my parents did not have a dime in the pocket when we came to this country. And the reason we came is because they wanted to give me an opportunity, a better opportunity than they could have given me in our old country. And the only thing that we had when we came here is education. And so I knew that that was where I had to focus if I ever wanted to succeed in life, was to getting a good quality education. And so coming from that background, having that quality education is extremely, extremely important to me. And that's really all that I want for my kids. And I want that for all the kids, not just my kids. I believe that all kids deserve to have access to good quality education, the way that I had access, and what allowed me to have, a good future in this country. And the G&T programs that we have today, they are really the success of public education. And so it's just amazing that we're even talking about dismantling the schools that are true successes. And so I very much believe that, instead of, I think it's also a very important point that the G&T schools that we have in the curriculum there is very different from enrichment programs at, a generalized program. And so I think that it is extremely, extremely important that we expand and find ways to make G&T education accessible to all children that need it, that qualify for it, instead of talking about potentially dismantling the one.
Start wrapping up.
Yep, the one thing that's actually working here. And so thank you for this opportunity. And I very much hope that the mayor and the chancellor will allow us to be involved in this process.
Thank you. Thank you for your remarks. The next person is Ursula Jung. There are two of you, so I'm just gonna try. I think you're on now, Ursula.
I am. So my name is Ursula Jung. My older son just graduated from the Anderson School in middle school, and the other one is in elementary school. And over the past 9 years, I have been grateful every day for the high quality public education that they have received. I know that G&T is often framed, including on this call by some people, which is fair, as being detrimental to diversity and equity initiatives. I personally disagree. In fact, I feel that these programs are often the only option that many families have for high quality programs, and in fact are the very opposite of what some people claim they are. Instead of offering more options to fulfill the needs of every child, maybe the DOE can just expand these options. Why do they seem intent on reducing these? I traveled across the city to access G&T education for my children, and I had the ability to do that, which is a privilege. I realize that all New York City public school parents don't have this. Why can't we offer quality programs replicated across New York City, including the outer boroughs? But most important, to wrap up, I'd like to remind the mayor and the chancellor, if they listen to this recorded call, that they repeatedly promised engagement with stakeholders. But no one, and I repeat, as far as I know, not one parent, not one guardian, not a student, no SLT, no principal, and no CEC has been consulted so far. I've also been reading the very animated chat, which is interesting because I speak for myself, certainly, and I think for many people on this call, when I say that when we say expand G&T, we don't mean that there are no other ways to do this, that there are many paths to having inclusive education. Of course, we need programs that cover the range of needs that families and children have. G&T is one of them. Why must we reduce a program that is a handful of children in the city? It doesn't take away from budgets. It doesn't.
Wrap up, please.
So my point was just that I personally am speaking in support of G&T programs. I understand people have different opinions, but we should all have the opportunity to make these opinions heard to the mayor and the chancellor. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
The next speaker is Lucy Hahn. I'm going to ask one of your, trying to unmute you. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lucy Hahn. I actually have a almost 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I'm just listening in as an interested parent, as a my daughter will be very interested in going home. I'm actually used to live in Manhattan, but because pandemic, we actually moved out to Forest Hill, Queens. So when we were deciding because of COVID to move, my husband wanted to move to Great Neck, and then obviously everybody want to move out of the city because the education and uncertainty of GNT. But I'm literally a child of a New York City public school. I came here when I first generation immigration, like the other parent has said, like with literally Chinese, considered Asian privilege, like have $50 in our pocket, live in the basement of Amherst. If without specialized high school, I don't think I would be successful, able to provide for my family of that. But I also get what their diversity is. Yeah, I did graduate from Stuyvesant where like majority of it is Asian. But I feel like I'm just kind of interested in a sense like, yeah, do I want my 4-year-old to take a GNT test, like thinking that she's gifted and talented, where like we have 2 working parents probably won't able to get her the tutoring that she needs, and then or I could spend the money to get her like the resource to take these tests. I'm also kind of conflicted because she is not even 4 yet. She turned 4 next month. So I kind of wanted to really just hope like the New York City DOE could have a better way of either like expanding the program, like a lot of parents here said, like do I really want to send my kids on a school bus from Forest Hill, Queens to like Lower Manhattan or Upper East Side on a 2 hours bus, where I could send her to a better education, like a local elementary school, but the trip without any kind of accelerated program district-wise. So I'm kind of hoping that the DOE will have something, hopefully have planned, but it sounds like that's not going to happen. That's really kind of like fun. I'm more interested, kind of like new parent kind of perspective. I want to hear what other people think. I don't want to move to Great Neck, to be honest with you. I don't want to move out to the city. I want, because I am a true believer in New York City public school. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your remarks. The next speaker is Carmen Garcia Oca.
Hi.
You should be able to speak.
Hi. First thing, I'm sorry about my accent. I'm Hispanic immigrant. I came here when I was 33 years old. And I'm only going to talk about my personal experience. I agree with most of the speakers what they say. I agree with education should be good for every kid in the city, regarding the economic status and regarding their race. Which I think is more important is we should help people who have no money. Doesn't mind which race are coming from, because I do not like that distinction to me. But I will talk about my experience. My son at 3 years old was reading, and he's now in 5th grade on the Anderson School. And last year he got college level reading. So imagine if my son goes to the school I have in my neighborhood, he will be not engaged, bored, and he will be having problems with him. Like last year, because he was at home for most of the time, he was not engaged through the computer at all. And he stopped reading and stopped doing things that he used to like. He likes to go to school, be engaged. He likes the teachers and the special education that the teacher are giving him. And if our mayor decides to close the accelerated programs, it's going to be, many parents have not the option to take them to a private school, which costs $60,000 in the city. And we are going to have to move out of the city because it's the only option for us. So I just wanted to tell my personal story. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for everybody and all the effort of the people who are doing this conference.
Thank you so much, Carmen. We appreciate your input. The next speaker is Jean Hahn. Hi, Jean, and I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to CEC2 for putting this together. It's really unfortunate that we are not getting this outlet from the DOE and that parents are having to pull something together. But I'm glad that we have this, and I'm glad we have parents that are advocating for gifted and talented. I've been thinking a lot about gifted and talented because I live in the outer boroughs, and it's a very different story out out where I live. We live in Central Queens. My daughter goes to a GNT school in Rego Park, and it's like a knife fight sometimes trying to get into some of these programs because of the distance. There are no citywide programs close by. It's very difficult to get to geographically, and what ends up happening is district programs are flooded with children that are more than well qualified to enter into the citywide programs. So what do you have left? You have children that are left that are not able or getting that should be in a program like this. And I just want to tell a story here. I was chatting with a friend who's a teacher, and she teaches at a school where it's not the best performing schools, and the school in itself has a lot of problems. She's teaching third graders, and third graders, the last normal school year that they ever had was in kindergarten. So she said that she gave a math test the other day, and some of the students in her class cannot even read the math questions. What are we doing here, people? I asked her, wouldn't it be easier to group the children by abilities? And she said, absolutely yes, but that would make it easy for the teachers. Why not? Why not make it easy for the teachers? Make it easy for the students. Put the kids that are needing accelerated coursework into classrooms and differentiate them, and then differentiate the children that need more supports into other classrooms. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. You can bring them together for other activities like gym or other classes. But the fact is, the DOE is not serving all of our children. And COVID has proven that. And I can't think of a time that's more important going forward to group our children by ability if we're gonna have our children succeed. Because the children that need our help the most are now having to have their teacher differentiate them in a classroom where children are 2 to 3 grade levels ahead of them. How does that help them? What they have to do? They have to make it up by attending a Saturday class. It just seems unfair that the district and the mayor is not thinking about really what is serving the children best. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know which way we move forward in terms of a policy, but it seems to me where we're really failing our children is that we are not giving them their needs at their ability level. That's really all I have to say for tonight. And thank you once again, CEC2.
Robin, I think you're muted.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Kush. I would like to introduce the next speaker, Noah Harlan, who is a CEC District 1 member and also a friend of mine from college. So take it away.
Thanks. Thanks for putting this together. Thanks to all of the participants on all sides of the issue. What I wanted to talk about, I think people have made a lot of excellent points, but I wanted to talk just a little bit about some structurally racist things that are not addressed here. So it was said earlier, the G&T programs are overwhelmingly white and Asian. The Asian population is very often overlooked in that. They're white when it's convenient for the administration, and they're the model minority when it's not. That is a wildly unfair and racist way to treat a very largely working class community that has worked very, very hard in this city. But the thing I want to point out is that the 10 districts in New York City, districts 5, 6, 7, 9, 12, 16, 17, 18, 23, and 32, which are more than 90% Black and Hispanic, have between them only 6 classrooms of accelerated learning. 4 of those districts have 0 classrooms of accelerated learning. That's 150,000 students in a city of roughly 1 million students in the DOE. So more than 10%, 15% of all students in the city, overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic, have 150 seats of accelerated learning available to them. And to then turn around and look at entrance exams for for the specialized high schools, What you are looking at when you see the entrance exam results is a thermometer that is talking to us the same way a thermometer tells us about global warming. It is simply telling us about a problem that already exists and that is existing by design. When you do not provide people opportunity for accelerated learning, then they will fail, and they will fail later in life. So this is not also, I want to note, we talk about gifted. I think that we should do away with the term. It is a polarizing term. It is an inaccurate term. There are students who are accelerated for a multitude of different reasons. And accelerated learning is an important thing that should be available throughout. It is different, as others have noted, from enrichment. Enrichment is incredibly important. But when you look at this administration, they have failed again and again and again when it comes to the DOE to effectively administer programs, to put in place policies that are forward-looking. We saw that throughout the pandemic when they had no plan after no plan after no plan. And now, once again, as he leaves office, thank you, as he leaves office, he's preparing to make what he claims will be a radical change to the future of the system that he will be utterly unaccountable for. So with that, I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Next up is Charlene Ang.
You should be unmuted.
Yep, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. It's hard to top that, Noah. So thanks for that. But I fully agree with what you just said. Thank you so much for organizing this event and giving us, even non-District 2 parents, the opportunity to speak. I really appreciate it, and getting us to kind of rally together to fight against this injustice that I feel is being put against all children. I agree with everything everybody has said, in favor of continuing and expanding the GNT program. And I'm not going to waste time repeating a lot of what has been said. You have all been very compelling and eloquent, far better than I can. But I just have 2 points to make. I was born and bred in Singapore, right? And where kids go through regular school for the first 4 years, and everybody takes a test in 3rd grade after having 4 years of kind of leveling of education, no matter which background you come from, and you go into a program that could be accelerated or not. Like many people said earlier, it is simply about having choice and options and providing what each of our children need, be it special ed, accelerated ed, gen ed, and everything else in the middle. In my mind, access to testing for all kids is actually the ultimate equalizer and forcing mechanism to rely simply on meritocracy and hard work to get where you need to go and to excel, regardless of your background. My second point that I'll try to be brief about is just having multiple entry points for older children to test into accelerated learning, particularly critical for young learners. Just like Johannes, Maggie, and some others have mentioned before, this is particularly near and dear to my heart. My son, who's in 1st grade, is unable to join his sister at a citywide school because he tested at 4.5 years old, and like many people said earlier, he wasn't ready. And I have no shame in telling everybody on this call that he didn't make it when he was 4.5. But we had thought that he would have multiple entries to try to test into, right? Because of different development stages. But clearly that was taken away in 2021 when everything changed. So again, there's significant hardship for us as a family now because we have 2 kids in 2 different schools, managing the logistics as well as the emotional turmoil of why can't they both attend the same school, explaining to them and all that stuff. I just want to wrap up and say I am in full favor of expanding accelerated learning for all, allowing our children to have the choice and options to choose. And I will do everything that I can to support that cause. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Next up is Allie Ryan. Allie.
Hey, hello, everybody. I'm gonna start off. I'm running for City Council District 2, which spans School District 2 and School District 1. I'm a former GNT parent in District 1, and I'm also a founding member of PLACE. I got involved in education politics in 2019 when the School Diversity Advisory Group released its second report, which recommended the phasing out of G&T programs and replacing them with a magnet schools emphasizing enrichment. In my opinion, the integration argument is a distraction to the real problem that before 2019, over 50% of New York City school children were below grade level. And now with COVID and post-COVID, it's gotten worse. We need to examine the knowledge loss between grade levels. Once the DOE honestly addresses knowledge loss, for which the DOE has the data of children's end of the year assessments and beginning of the year assessments, we can begin to have a real, genuine conversation on how to reduce and minimize knowledge loss. And that would also give children the opportunity to learn at grade level and then to exceed grade level. And I think until we can reform the time mismanagement, we will, let me start here. Right now, this is really a time mismanagement issue, whereas Mayor de Blasio and his chancellors and others have villainized parents and children who want accelerated curriculum education, as well as who supplement their current education. I want to share, in 2017, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. commissioned a report analyzing the school to prison pipeline. The report stopped short of recommending an expansion of G&T schools.
Start wrapping up. Sorry.
Thanks, Craig. So now, please ask the mayoral candidates where they stand on G&T education and make sure they define what G&T education means to them. And I also encourage everyone here to ask candidates in all races for their stance on this issue. And I also would like to say, for the record, I have written numerous letters calling for universal testing, G&T testing, and G&T program expansion to Mayor de Blasio for the past 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Thank you for that. Next up is our fellow council member, Lupe Hernandez.
I'm asking her to unmute. I'm wondering if she walked away for a few minutes.
If you
there
guys,
you go. Go ahead.
If you have time, I'll wait a couple more speakers. I'm still working on bedtime. I apologize. Thank you for understanding.
Okay, we'll get back to you, Lupe. Next is Caitlin Canfield.
Okay, Caitlin, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep. Hi. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Caitlin Camfield. I'm the mother of a gifted and talented first grader at PS 111, as well as a developmental psychologist, and I do research to increase equity in early childhood. So I will say, to start and to respond to some of the things that have already been said tonight, the research on gifted programs is definitely mixed, right? There's no for sure research that shows that gifted programs are beneficial for gifted children, but there are a few things that are consistent in the research, and that's that they show that the most improvements are among children who are more at risk, who are from low income and marginalized communities. They also improve student engagement for students who are in those programs, so they enjoy school more. And they show that if you challenge students at most levels, so not just the most gifted students, but students, at most levels, those students will meet the challenge. Another thing that I've seen anecdotally is that the gifted and talented programs help community schools. So at PS 111, where my son goes, enrollment and parent engagement were much lower before they instituted their gifted and talented program. I also want to say that it is true that outside of the gifted and talented schools themselves, when we're talking about the district level gifted and talented programs, there is no curriculum. That's true. And that is definitely, I think, something that needs to be addressed in any future program that, any change to the gifted and talented program that's done. And, as a person who has done hundreds of assessments with 4-year-olds as part of my work, I also agree that testing 4-year-olds is likely not the best way to determine who is gifted. And I think, until this past year, we had testing available each year through 2nd grade, but getting a seat after kindergarten, we know, is extremely difficult. And so I think any new program for gifted and talented needs to include universal screening, which should include testing, but also other factors like teacher recommendations. It should include expanded access. I think Hunter said it best, that all students should have a program within a bus ride. A standard curriculum with flexibility for teachers, right? So it doesn't have to be that it's strictly, one thing, but that there is something standard that teachers are following for a gifted and talented program at the district level. And then I think reimagining programs that help every student, even in elementary school, right? So acceleration for specific subjects outside of full gifted and talented programs, outside of, those classrooms. Also cohorting students throughout their elementary school years, so that it builds that community. And when you do have students at different levels and they're paired up, they've known each other for years, and it builds that community. I think that's all I want. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say tonight. So again, thank you for giving me the time to talk. And thank you everyone, all the other parents and Community Education Council for doing this tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for those words. Apologies. Oh, there I go. Back. Cynthia Law is next.
Cynthia, there's 2 Cynthias on here, neither of which are Cynthia Law. So could you raise your hand so I know which one to unmute? I guess while we're waiting for Cynthia to do that, maybe do you want to go to Virgil?
Yeah, let's do that. Virgil Kong.
Virgil, you should be able to speak.
Hi. I'm a parent of a kid in Nest. I'm a parent, also a kid in the 124 G&T program. I guess my only point is I don't understand why parents are not allowed to engage at all in this whole process of reassessing G&T. This talk about reimagining G&T or whatever, it doesn't make sense that parents are not allowed to engage. And it's not even that parents are not allowed to engage, it's also the people who are making these decisions. We don't even know who is making these decisions, who has the voice, who is at the table. It's just completely unacceptable. And it's just, we shouldn't be here today to try to have a voice. We should automatically, some parent representative, some school system, some educator, the list of the people who do have a voice should be known so that it's a public discourse. What is happening here? Thank you.
Thank you for your words. Next
Okay,
up,
are you ready to go now? Have you finished your writing? Lupe? Lupe Hernandez, are you still here? Or did you step away?
Just offer to unmute her.
Okay, we'll move on to.
Oh, she's unmuted. Lupe?
I had to, yes, I apologize. I had the laptop in a different room. Let me see. Thank you for having us. I'm fellow CEC District 2 member, and I agree that this should have been an engagement with the DOE. The mayor should have definitely engaged more. He's had a year. However, I want to make sure that this space was inclusive to all, because I think it's very clear, even based on this Zoom that we all have different of opinions, and in order for us to even be able to come together, I think it's important that we're able to share those opinions based on our own personal experience as well as our children that we're here representing and advocating so effortlessly for. I mean, both sides need to listen, and I think that's key, because the loudest voice necessarily is not always the majority. And so we as District 2 CEC members, we represent the entire district and have to remember that. I want to applaud everyone for engaging, and remember that I think there was initiatives in place that kind of started this recourse in GNT. I think a lot of data was shared tonight that prove the distrust between the DOE and how GNT has been played out and who has been harmed in doing so. So in the beginning of the Zoom, I think that was somewhat the framework of what you guys asked was who would be harmed if we expelled or dismantled GNT. And I think what's key here in the reasoning behind the push for all of this is let's really sit back and think about who's been harmed thus far. And we as CEC members are here to represent you, and it's good that we are providing this platform. I think that was the most important. But remember that it's been, since the GNT program had split and really segregated, and I know these words could be trigger for some, but it has.
Start wrapping up, please.
Yes, it has
Thank you.
segregated the system rather than creating a more inclusive education for all the kids throughout the city as well as District 2.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Nakia Watson.
Okay,
Hello?
you should be okay. Yep, we hear you.
Yes, you can hear me? Okay,
Yes.
so I want to thank you for having this forum. Two, I apologize if my thoughts seems to be all over the place, but a lot of parents on here made a lot of interesting points. And not to say directly, but I do feel like when y'all speak about the exclusion of certain children, I feel like my child is one of them, because tonight it was Lucy Hahn and I believe Caitlin Canfield that made two very interesting points to me. That the testing part, it's kind of hard. Me personally, I'm a single parent. I am a minority, and it's only me raising my daughter. So at this point, to try to do testing for my child would have been practically impossible. Now, what made me do the GNT program for my daughter is because she's in kindergarten, excuse me. What made me do it is because I had so many people saying she should do GNT, she should do GNT. Even to the point of strangers I met in the street, they'd be like, "Oh my God, she's so intelligent, she's smart." So when they had this opportunity for the lottery, I asked her teachers, "Do you think should I sign my child for the GNT?" And they told me, "Yes, I think she's a good candidate." But I'm gonna be honest. Honestly speaking, if they had the testing part, I would not have been able to do it because I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resource, and I did not have the time to be able to do that for my child. In addition to that, I'm sorry, I lost my thought. But in addition, furthermore, the testing part is kind of challenging. And then I feel like with the pandemic, I also feel like my child lost a year of education because I had to work from home, but I couldn't give her the time that she needed. And I felt so guilty because I had to work. So I couldn't put in that time for her. So to me, when they did the lottery part and reaching out to the school to see if your child was really a good candidate for it, I think it worked on my behalf.
I want to interrupt you, Nakia, but I think you're done. not, you can finish up. Can't hear you.
Yes, I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm done. Yes.
That's quite all right. I just didn't want to cut you off. Next up, we have Faye. Faye, I think you also texted me. Do you don't want to speak?
No, I can speak. Hi, guys. Just give me 1 second. Hi, my name is Faye Samim. None of my kids are in GNT program. I just wanted to put it out there. I reside on Upper East Side. Both my kids are in middle schools, East Side Middle and Yorkville Middle School. I just wanted to share, I'm happy to be here. I'm here to educate myself and listen to the voices. I'm actually very impressed that this program that you've all put together is very interactive. And I hope to see more of these in future for other, topics. And I just support all the parents. I mean, everybody who spoke and they had point of view, I support all of them. And I hope it works out for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe next up is Tunisia Riley.
Hi, good
Go ahead.
evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this. It's really appreciated. Being able to chat with each other and being able to listen. I really appreciate it. A couple of things that I wanted to say. One, we are talking about District 2 right now. District 2 is the best district in the city. And so when we're talking about lack of education for the kids, realizing that they're in some of the best schools in the city, even if it's not a gifted and talented program. Working in the DOE myself and working in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, I can tell you that there's real struggle outside of District 2. The second thing I want to say is that I agree with Noah. I think we should get rid of the term gifted and talented and talk about making it acceleration and making it accelerated for all. I'll bring my own experience. I am a product of an accelerated program at the time when most schools had it, or there were quite a few in every neighborhood. And I was able to move on to an SP program in middle school and then go to a specialized high school myself. My husband also was a product of acceleration in his middle school and high school, and we both went to NYU. Both of our children are in gifted and talented program. We're in the PS 130 gifted and talented program, and my son goes to Salk, and my youngest is still at 130. At that school, they don't have one track. So they have your gifted and talented kids that are accelerated. And then the other students are doing the same curriculum, but just not at the faster pace that the gifted and talented program might be doing. I want my children to have the opportunity. I want every child in the city to have the opportunity to have an accelerated program in their school. It shouldn't be a gifted and talented in one school in the neighborhood or maybe in the next neighborhood. It should be accelerated programs that's looking at the kids' work, looking at what the teachers are saying, giving teacher input, and looking at if the children can work with that, can do it. Every kid in every school should have that ability. And then, yes, I went to Brooklyn Tech. And when I went to Brooklyn Tech in the 90s, it was 60% Black, Latino, 30% Asian. And it wasn't because, the school was bad. It was because they had acceleration in many schools in the 80s and in the, I'm going to date myself, late 70s. Many schools had acceleration. So we need to go back to that. But we need the Board of Ed to put money back into that and stop siphoning the money from these poorer schools and putting it into things that, into salaries and other programs that don't benefit any of our children. Acceleration is the key. Don't get rid of gifted and talented. Give it to everybody. Let everyone be a part. Thank you very much.
Tunisia, I have to just say thank you. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing that perspective. Thank you.
Craig, I think we have two more left
You
after this.
Yuki,
Okay,
and then Dimi. I'm
I'm gonna
probably
let
mispronouncing it right.
Robin introduce Dimi, and I'll take care of Yuki. I just want to say right now, just a time check. It is 9:41. We originally said this would end at 9:30, but I did want to give everybody a chance to speak. So I'm normally a fan of ending meetings on time, but I don't want to silence parents, especially when they've been silenced so far in this matter. So without further ado, Yuki Shimura.
Hi, this is Yuki's husband, Zhongling Wen. I'm using my wife's Zoom account. So my kid goes to lower lab. And I want to talk a little bit about my personal experience. As you may be able to recognize a little bit from my accent, I do not grow up in the United States. I came from Taiwan, and the city I have, the city I grow up, do not have GNT program. So personally, in my childhood, I was a little bit troubled and disconnected with my peers because I do feel like there's a disconnection between myself and other kids. So I do really appreciate GNT program because I don't want my kid to experience the same trouble and disconnection with my peers. And after that, I did go to some better school, including, I would say, probably fair to say, best of the schools in Taiwan and also in Japan, in Canada, in US. I graduated from MIT afterwards. So I do like the environment there, right? I think it's very challenging, stimulating, and that is also one of the reasons that I came to US, at least as it is advertised. I think it is about meritocracy. And at least at some point, I think within all the countries around the planet, I think US is probably the one that is closest to that ideal of meritocracy, right? And what I'm concerned about is that although we don't know what de Blasio mayor is going to reimagine the GNT program, I will hope it is not about a equalization of the outcomes, right? So I do want to see US to at least, well, the
Wrapping up, please.
System to stick with that ideal. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin, you want to introduce Dimi?
Yes, I would love to introduce my friend Dimi Jean, who has a son in kindergarten at PS 33. Dimi, can you unmute yourself?
Dimi, I'm asking you to unmute. You should be able to.
Okay.
I don't know if Dimi walked away.
I'll make one quick.
Hi, everyone.
Yep,
Hello,
we can hear
can
you.
you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And I hear all of you tonight, and I'm gonna make it very short. It's very sad that we have to be here tonight talking about this, because education is something we owe to our children. And I'm glad that this year I had the chance having my son on PS 33, because although the previous school he was going to go was a 10 out of 10, but I can tell you it's nothing compared to what he's receiving right now in PS 33. I believe everything that's happening right now is a sort of distraction instead of reforming the education system, and instead of providing more resources to school and to families and to our children, instead of implementing more GNT program in all the schools that really deserve it, and all that have all the kids who really have the same potential and would love to have that opportunity, instead of having more seats open into school and remove those kids who are actually gifted and the wait list, all they're doing is trying to distract us from this. It's very sad that we have to be here tonight talking about this. And I don't know, I hear a lot of you talking tonight, but one thing I really want everyone to remember, in the next 50 years, we're gonna look at our children and we're gonna ask them, they're gonna ask us, did we really provide them what we were supposed to? Right now, Gifted Talented program is the only thing for me, for my family that's working in the system. I see what's going on in the general education, and it's very sad. It's very, very sad. Thank you, thanks God, thanks for everybody who support my son and support my family. And I'm very lucky that he were able to be in a GNT this year. And because the kid is very smart. It's not because it's my son. And is a kind of kids who really love to be challenged. And I would have been feeling very, very sad if he didn't have the chance to be in a Gifted Talented program. So for those who believe that the Gifted Talented is the problem, I think they should think it twice. They should really think it again. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's it.
Thank you, Dimi.
Speaker.
That is the last speaker. I was told somebody had their hand up. Don't see it now.
It was Tracy, but I don't think the hand's not up now. I don't know if it was the same Tracy that's still on.
Okay. I think with that, I just want to end with some thank yous and then pass it back to Robin. First of all, I don't know if people noticed, we did have with 2 DOE attendances tonight. Total. Jennifer Greenblatt, who was our family coordinator for District 2, she often comes to these events and spends a lot of time in helping us and engaging all of us. And I want to thank her. And I want to thank Vivian Orlin, superintendent of superintendent of high schools, who did join us tonight. Thank you, Vivian, for having the courage where your peers did not. She said she just wanted to listen and did not want to speak. And beyond that, I want to thank certainly my co-chair and co-host Robin. I want to thank Craig as our newest addition to the committee of now 3. I want to thank my fellow CEC members, Daniela for her nice opening statement, Janie for incredible work behind the scenes, Chen for his words, Lupe for her addition towards the end, and if I have missed anyone, Robin, please fill in.
I also want to thank Lily, who is also our fellow CEC District 2 council member, for her work and for her participation. And thank you, all of you. I know it's a late night. We've been doing a lot of these lately. And you had the opportunity to either be here and discuss your thoughts and fight for what you think is best for all of our children, or be with your children and have dinner and tuck them in. So I appreciate the sacrifice that you all made to be here and try to fight for what's right for all of us. So thank you. And I hope this makes a difference.
Thank you. I'm going to let Jamie end the meeting.
Recording. Okay, I'm going to end.
Can you save the chat before you end, Janie?
And I think we should all stay in touch. Please reach out to others on here if you want to connect or come up with other ideas. And we're all here for each other.
Well said. Thank you all. Have a good night. Tuck your kids in.
Actually, how do I save the chat?
In the lower right-hand corner, I think everybody, all the council members should, but lower right, there's a little 3 dots that save chat.
Okay.
After the smiley face.
Yeah, I think I saved it. It says save chat, and it's hopefully that worked. All right.
I think we actually need to end. Good night, all.